Alright, so we got the 366 spoilers here, and this chapter is certainly something, but it has a pretty exciting ending because I'm pretty sure you can guess who has finally come back, and it's better late than never, but let's just get into it. Chapter starts with a narration explaining Shigaraki's state. His body, in seeking its optimal shape, became a mass of expanding fingers in order to destroy. This form should have let him trample the world without letting anyone come near, but the heroes overcame them. His body couldn't recover due to erasure sealing that ability, and he became consumed by the stress of impatience in his heart. Because of this, his body is adapting to the optimal form for this new situation, which covers his body and face in more hands while manifesting the forms of his family members. So in the previous chapter, we saw Shigaraki like freaking out, and he said that he was like feeling panicked, especially when he was fighting Bakugo previously, and after getting hit a few times by Mirko, we started to see like the inner consciousness of Tenko within him fighting back, and he started to remember like his family, and he said, I wasn't broken back then, but it's not like anybody reached out a helping hand. It's not like anyone would even look at me. And then suddenly his body started to morph into seemingly his deceased family members. And it's being explained here why that is. And it's an interesting reason. I wouldn't have expected this. Mirko gets fed up with the changes and shouts for him to cut it out. Shig All For One uppercuts Mirko, and Mirio calls out to her. But then Shig All For One advances on Tamaki, who can only say Mirio's name right before Shig All For One lands a hit on him. Nejiri then attacks Shig All For One, but it's ineffective. Mirio tries to attack as well, but can't stop Shig All For One from flinging debris at Nejiri and taking her down for the scuffle. Shig All For One blows off Mirio next and tells him he knows Mirio's got nothing. Mirio realizes he's now the sole fighter and can't get Shig All For One to look at him. Alright, so he's getting serious now. And it really makes it seem like he wasn't, I don't know, trying as hard before this, or I don't know, Horikoshi has kind of reached the point of where he just wants to start knocking pieces off of the board, especially because what's going to happen at the end of the chapter. But seemingly in like 2 pages here maybe, Shigaraki is taking down Mirko, Nejiri, and Tamaki. And as for Mirio, this goes back to what we were talking about since he's returned, and it's that he's very limited. While his quirk is awesome, going against someone as brokenly powerful as Shigaraki, it's just ultimately not enough if you don't have like one for all strength or something close to that. Shig All For One turns to attack Best Jeanist next while shouting for him not to fix things people have broken. Jeanist hears Shig All For One's conclusion and realizes that his defensive form is the result of his feelings of rejection. He tries to bind Shig All For One with his fraying cables while Mirio sinks underground. So this goes back to what we were talking about with Shigaraki saying at the end of the previous chapter, where he said, I wasn't broken back then. It's not like anybody reached out a helping hand to me. It's not like anybody would even look at me. This is in reference to like after he had inadvertently killed his entire family after decay had manifested within him, and he was kind of walking around like a little zombie, and no one really wanted anything to do with him until All For One conveniently came and found him. So yeah, he has some severe trauma from that, and his body needed to manifest his family members to cope with that, I guess. Mirio surfaces to try to hit Shig All For One, but it doesn't do anything. Mirio sees Best Jeanist struggling to fight Shig All For One, and frustrated, he reflects on the fallen Tamaki, Nejiri, and Mirko. He remembers Night Eye's words to him before he died, and Mirio wonders how this can be his future. So Night Eye basically said, you'll be as fine a hero as any. That is one part of the future that mustn't be changed, so keep smiling. A world without smiles and humor has no bright future. And we'll see later on that Horikoshi is taking this quite literally. Mandalay cuts in with her telepathy and warns the conscious heroes that the electromagnetic barrier is unlocking for 2 seconds. She tells them to hold down until then. Best Jeanist wonders what's happening, but Shig All For One is already on him. And Best Jeanist realizes 2 seconds is too long for them to wait. I mean, we have to understand these are battle manga seconds, so it's like a minute essentially. Mirio panics as he tries to figure out what to do. His mind races about how he has nothing, just as Shig All For One said, but he somehow needs to get Shig All For One's attention onto himself, but he doesn't have any weapon to accomplish that. That's when he remembers Sir Night Eye's words about how they must smile. Mirio surfaces from the ground in front of Shig All For One. Mirio remembers Night Eye's last advice, that a society without humor doesn't have a bright future. Mirio rises from the ground and flashes his butt to Shig All For One while screaming, "A peach is growing." Shig All For One is stunned. So yeah, this is actually happening apparently. And this is what Mirio has been reduced to. He's become so useless that this is all he can do. Maybe some of you like this. To me, this is almost like a burial of his character. I mean, he's getting the job done here. He's accomplishing what he ultimately needed to do. I'd rather just take a random quirk awakening here than this. Shiggy, for one, is distracted just long enough, and we see Izuku nearby using Black Whip to build up elastic tension. The next pages show Izuku and Shiggy, for one, locking eyes, and a double page spread where Izuku slingshots himself to kick Shiggy, for one, with a giant smash. End of chapter. Alright, so our boy is finally back here. I think we haven't seen him since the end of chapter 357, right? We saw him flying towards UA, and then suddenly Yoichi appeared and was like, Midoriya, I've got a bad feeling about this. Izuku's like, what's that? And in the distance, we saw multiple things flying at him. And we speculated that it could be All For One, you know, successfully defeating Endeavor and his crew. And then, I don't know, he started flying there with, I don't know, Nomus or something. But we also speculated that there's a chance it could have been Star and Stripes' team, the pilots who fly those stealth bomber looking jets. And it turns out it is, because Rukazu says Deku arrives from the sky together with the jets from Star and Stripes' friends and hits a smash on Shigaraki. So yeah, that was it. It was a red herring. And Yoichi coming out and saying that I've got a bad feeling about this was just to throw us off. I don't know why he would have a bad feeling about this, but I guess he just felt something coming towards them. It's fine, and I think it's cool. I really would like to see Izuku interact with them the way that Star and Stripe did, because they also have like lasers on their jets. But yeah, Izuku is finally back here, and things are going to get really interesting because he's obviously way more powerful than everyone else here. Like, the power creep has gotten insane. I mean, as we've seen, essentially all of the top heroes are here except like Endeavor and Hawks, and they've only really been able to stall him, if anything. Like what Izuku was saying back in the Dark Deku arc about how he essentially needs to do this alone because everyone else isn't powerful enough and they're just going to die. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said that, and it's true, right? I mean, Bakugo literally just did die. Now we're getting the big Goku moment, and hopefully it's as satisfying as it was in DBZ, because at this point I just kind of want to see Shigaraki get beaten down. But I also would like if Monoma would just stop nullifying his quirks too, because I want to see what he's fully capable of, and ultimately just want to see like the peak of All For One versus the peak of One For All. But I also have a feeling that before we get to that, Horikoshi is kind of gonna cut over to the other stuff that's happening, because, you know, there's a lot of other battles with the other students that we haven't touched on since they were introduced. So just keep that in mind. That's going to happen at some point. Let me know what you think about these spoilers in the comments. And if you liked the video, guys, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.